What does it take to walk away from fossil fuels, rethink an entire business, and build technology that could reshape how the world powers everything from electric vehicles to the grid? Welcome to Industry Ignited. I'm Dr. Leeanne Aguilar, and today I'm joined by Don Currie, CEO of Hillcrest Energy Technologies. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the podcast.
Yeah, likewise. Should be an interesting conversation. Now, Don, you spent decades as a corporate executive, entrepreneur, and strategic advisor, much of that in oil and gas. What first drew you into the energy sector, and what kept you there for so many years?
It's a good question. The energy sector, what I liked about it, especially the oil and gas, is I grew up in an area where mineral resources, minerals, mining, that sort of thing, and oil and gas was very prominent. What I liked most about the oil and gas was that when you're drilling or you're out there searching, exploring, you drill a well, it's dry or it's making money right off the bat. And so the time frame along with it is short for success or not. Whereas in mining, one of the drawbacks I always looked at is that it takes so many different levels, so many different companies that have to get involved, from finding the land to defining the land to exploring and maybe 5 or 10% of these mines actually go into production. So oil and gas to me was a quicker fix to success or not.
Yeah. So it's more of that instant gratification, like you strike gold more quickly, I guess the black gold.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've described yourself as someone who thinks outside the box and builds strategy in challenging environments. How did that mindset develop over the course of your career?
I think it just develops with some of the people I worked with. We've all had mentors, and I've watched some of the people that I got involved with at an early age in different businesses, how they looked at hurdles as things to be overcome, not roadblocks. And so I think hurdles are different than roadblocks. And thinking outside the box, I find that majority of people will look for roadblocks. And then it's, well, we can't do that. And there's always a solution. I think that there's answers to everything. Sometimes the answer is no go. But I think through some of the people that I've worked with and just from my mentality of thinking there has to be a way to do this different. It doesn't always have to be straight ahead and the way that everyone else does it. So it's something that's ingrained and something that's been taught.
Right. Yeah. So that mindset of just there is a solution, there's a way to do it. It's just figuring out how instead of, even if it's not obvious, there's a solution there.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to I've been involved in different industries when you have to come across regulators or you have to come across certain partners. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite lines is, tell me what you need me to give you for you to say yes. Because people don't like change. It's easier to say no. So it's, what do I need to give you for you to say yes? It puts them in a different mindset. And it also, I'm going to learn more from that is what it's going to take to get a yes.
Right. I love that. Yeah. I'm going to use that. Actually, yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. Now, Hillcrest's story includes a major pivot from fossil fuel production to clean energy technology. What was the turning point that made you realize it was time to change direction?
We had a lot of people in the company that had success in oil and gas was becoming problematic. It used to be if you could get to 1,000 barrels a day, you were a target for independence. That went up to 5,000 barrels a day. The funding for oil and gas just was not there. Starting 2012 up through 2014, when the industry started to crash, shale started to go. The funding just wasn't there for small companies, and we never reached the 1,000 barrels of oil that we were trying to get to. And so there was a pivot that was going to be needed. And when we started looking at different strategy, where were we going to go, transition strategies, it was very obvious that clean energy and clean tech is something that everybody in the world is interested to at some level. Electrification is known, clean energy is known. The younger investors, that's everything. Whereas fossil fuels and oil and gas, maybe 5-10% of the world was okay with investing in it, whereas 100% of the world is interested in hearing about clean energy and clean tech. So it was easy to look at that as a transition. The next stage was to say, what part of that are we going to go into? What part of that do we need to focus on so that we're different and not just part of the crowd?
Yeah, right. That's true, because if everybody's interested in it, then there's a ton of competition, and what's the differentiator, and can you specialize in, what's your niche that you can really excel in?
Awesome. Yeah, so many companies were looking at solar, and solar now is probably oversaturated and more of a consolidation industry. It's not something you would want to hang your hat on. Maybe when we started it was, but right now it's the type of thing. So, but offering a technology that maybe makes solar more efficient is something that we're at.
Yeah, right. Now, you've said you are not the technical person on the team, but the one who builds the organization, raises capital, and brings the right people together. How have you learned to lead innovation by building the right team around you?
Listening. When we were going in the transition, looking at different strategies, we had some ideas that we were going to look at, and then you start testing with various people. And when we were looking at clean tech, clean energy, our former CTO Ari Berger came along and started explaining zero voltage switching. That he thought there was an industry need for zero voltage switching, and that he had a way of developing it where the industry hadn't been able to up for that 20 years. So we
Hmm.
listened to him, ran that idea by some other people that were in the industry. That was met with great skepticism. What I liked about it was the challenge of he was very close to saying we can get this done and we would be first mover status if we did. And that's how he got involved in the company. And I liked the idea that if there was a 75, 80% chance of having that done and no one else had done it, that would differentiate it for us. So it's about listening to him, taking input from other people that were in the industry.
Yeah,
And it's amazing when you start bringing up an idea, how many people will say, "Oh, you should talk to this person because I know them and they're in that industry," and get their input. So there was a lot of input that came into it, and enough that over time it was okay. Let's start with Ari. Let's go forward with this zero voltage switching idea, and then build the team around him. He knows what he needs. We
hmm,
think we know where it's going to be deployed and how it's going to be going. So then we started looking for people again to join part of the team. As far as the technical part, you're right. I'm not technical. I just have to. I have to. It's after listening and reading and following, then you make a gut decision.
right. But it sounds like, yeah, you had to have enough understanding of the technology of what it, to have that buy-in and to make that decision to build a
I
company
either had to
around
have
it
enough understanding of the technology or trust in
and
the
trust.
people that did have a better understanding
Yeah,
uh, of the technology to say, okay, if you believe that, then I can go do this.
yeah,
A company's not just one person. A company's many, many different people. And so it's not necessary that I have the best understanding. I have to have the people that have the best understanding advising me.
right. That's a good point, though. The trust, like you said, having trust in the people who have the understanding. Okay, awesome. For listeners who may not be familiar with power conversion, what exactly does Hillcrest technology do, and why is it such an important piece of electrification?
Okay, that's a great question because I had to learn this. So, from a non-technical, every electrical system has some sort of conversion. So there's alternating current and there's direct current. And to put it simply, if you took a solar panel, it's direct current, but the grid where it's putting energy into the grid is alternating current. That power has to be converted.
Hmm.
Very simply, it has to be converted from DC to AC, as we like to say. In a car, the battery is DC, the engine is AC. It has to be converted. Up till this point in time, there's a thing called hard switching. So whenever you're converting power, there's switching losses that occur. So there's you're looking for high efficiency, but the switching losses are a point where sometimes as much as 30% of the power isn't going through because of the losses.
Wow.
And that causes those losses cause other what they call negative trade-offs. So high electrical magnetic interference. Zero voltage switching or soft switching, which the industry was trying to perfect, but we happen to crack the code at these higher power levels, is basically it eliminates switching losses or significantly reduces switching losses. And
Hmm.
when you reduce the significantly reduce the switching losses, then you have lower electrical magnetic interference, which think about static, think about radioactive sort of coming off of that. So the benefit is we have much, much higher switching efficiencies, or we have much higher efficiencies. We significantly reduce, if not eliminate, the switching losses, and we have lower EMI, so you don't have to pay to protect against that. So overall, the conversion is smoother, but it
Hmm.
has a better effect on the overall system. So we've come up with something that has a value to everybody that has the appetite to start implementing it.
Right. Wow. Now, Hillcrest is focused on highly innovative inverter and control system solutions. What makes your zero voltage switching technology different from what currently exists in the market?
Just to repeat myself, we've significantly reduced, if not eliminated, switching losses.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist right now.
It doesn't exist,
Uh
and
huh.
so eyes light up with the technical people when you say we can significantly reduce the switching losses. Right there alone, they can then value They can value how much power they're getting. They don't have to say, okay, we'll take a 10, 15, 20, 25% um, reduction in the overall. The system itself will perform. If you have 200 kilowatts, you can budget that you're going to be getting 200 kilowatts, not 175, because of the switching losses. So there's technical benefits for it.
So it's this high efficient system that also reduces the electromagnetic interference. Now, why
Yes.
is that combination so valuable for electric systems?
Well, in the hard switching and what exists today, so there's companies that will go for, or there's technology that goes for very high switching frequencies. But when you do that, it increases the electrical magnetic interference. So you don't have the benefit of both. You have to sacrifice one for the other, or you lower the electric EMI, the electrical magnetic interference, and that affects your switching frequencies or your efficiencies. In our case, we don't. We've solved both problems with the same thing. You're not losing something to gain something. You're benefiting on both levels.
Got it. Okay. Now, your technology can apply across multiple sectors, from EVs to motors, generators, data centers, energy storage, and grid connected systems. Where are you seeing the strongest demand right now, and why?
Right now, data centers and energy storage are front and center. It's in every story. And even when you start looking at that, governments are saying data centers, they see the value of it, they see the employment value of it, they see the business value of it, but they're saying that you need to provide your own power to yourself. Areas do not have the power. If
Yeah,
every data center that was being planned came into play, the power doesn't exist. It just does not exist. So efficiency is the key. So
right.
they need to supply their own power. They need to be as efficient and cost effective as possible. So energy storage is very, very good. Data centers are very, very good. For a while there, for about a year and a half, 2 years, it was automotive was very front and center, but that's slowed down substantially.
Okay. But I know you've already demonstrated the technology with with some of the major automotive players, including some very high performance applications. What have those early demonstrations taught you about market readiness and adoption?
Well, we knew going into the automotive that it was a long cycle.
Hmm.
What we had to do is we had to prove ourselves first because, again, zero voltage switching is something that people had tried to do for quite some time, a couple of decades. And so we had to take away the skepticism. And we were able to demonstrate in other people's labs, in their facilities. And it's a line I use. We either met or exceeded all their criteria. One of the major European automakers took us to a certified third party lab to actually test the EMI. Now, electrical magnetic interference causes them a problem in an electric vehicle such that they have to put shielding around cables and around battery boxes to protect against the output of it. And so our technology was demonstrated to have a low enough EMI where they didn't have to pay for that shielding around the cables or the battery box, as an example. So we were learning as we were demonstrating, because the potential customer is always telling you what they're looking for. EMI was not a focus of ours when we started. That came from a customer saying that was one of their focuses. And it just ends up that our technology solved that issue for them. Now, are we in their cycle? What is the cycle? What does it take? Are they going to be doing 5 models? Are they going to be going completely electric? And what we found over the last 2 years is the industry itself is somewhat paralyzed in how they're going to move forward. They know they're going to move forward, but they're a little bit paralyzed right now based on sales and based on lack of government subsidies worldwide, which really were kicking off the EV craze for a while.
So you just seen the automotive industry slow in general, and so that slowdown has just changed your focus to other sectors.
It has slowed down in general. What we did is we went the automotive sector at the beginning because we aligned ourselves with a German company, Systematic GmbH, which is a power electronics design company that had been developing inverter hardware for the automotive industry in Germany for 20 years.
Hmm.
So we were the firmware part of it. They were the hardware part of it. We own all the IP. Great partnership, great people. And so we went there first because we knew that they were opening doors. We weren't looking for the German automotive makers to all of a sudden be taking calls from Don Currie in Vancouver, Canada, saying, I've got something for you. We needed those doors to be open, and they were open through relationships. And we met. The industry itself, while they were aggressively saying they were going to be 100% electric by 2025 or 2028 or 2030, that was never realistic. It was never realistic. And that slowed down substantially. Now, we started in that direction, knowing that stationary or grid related opportunities, being data centers, energy storage, you name it, solar, wind, that was really where the big dollars will will sit later on down the road. And now that's where we are right now. So the industries themselves have flipped. And the good part about the grid is that the grid isn't based on sales.
Right.
They're not worried about what last quarter sales were. They're worried about staying ahead and actually being as efficient as they need to be. So they need to put money into new technologies to be able to stay ahead of the curve.
What does commercialization look like when it comes to the grid and stationary applications?
We're part of the difference between the grid and traction, or EV is what we like to say, is that in a car, you have the battery, you have the motor, and you have an inverter in between. Really simple. It's as simple as it comes. When you get into the grid, it's a power conversion system. We're part of a system. So our inverter becomes part of this overall system that includes a few other things that are involved in it. We're building the inverter is the base of it, but our next product, or what we're out there demonstrating or talking about right now, is a ZVS power conversion system. And that's the process that we're going on right now, is being able to, when you're talking commercial, there's always going to be development stages. There might be 2 stages, there might be 3 stages, there might be 4 stages. What we're saying is, and we learned this lesson going through the automotive thing, we're saying we want you to commit to using this technology subject to us meeting these certain execution points or milestones. We'll do the 4 tests for you, then we'll discuss commercialization. We're saying, no, you know what you need. Let's discuss commercialization now, knowing that they're the same 4 steps. So it's the same conversation. You're talking about the outcome at the beginning.
Right. Okay. Now, you've said opportunity is massive, but focus matters. As Hillcrest moves towards commercialization, how are you deciding where to place your first big bet?
The customer. So everybody wants demonstrations and talks for free. We're past that. It's sometimes easy to say no to someone when you can't afford to say yes. So where we are right now is we're saying our team is agnostic to where we're going to go. We believe the big focus is either going to be data centers or energy storage come this June. At this June, we'll have a commercial prototype that can be demonstrated at a general level to anyone that's interested. By that time, we hope to have potential commercial clients, customers, whatever you want to say, that are going to align with us or buy from us. And if it's more heavily data center focused, then we'll be going in the data center. And the reason that's important is that the next stage from June is you're moving towards a certified product. And there's different certification levels depending on the industry you're going into. Now, a company our size, again, we need to pick the path that's going to be best for us or most profitable for us growth-wise at the very beginning. And right now, I'd say it's about a 50-50, although, like I say, every story you read out there, there's a data center.
Right.
Energy storage is a very, very, very big industry. Our inverter technology would have a very positive application in there. So
Yeah.
those discussions are going on right now with the idea of trying to tie some of those up and decide exactly what the direction is come June.
Yeah. So the customers are leading the way and telling you what they need. And I don't think that that's slowing down. I think the need for more energy and data centers will continue to grow because technology is evolving so quickly, right now. And yeah.
Yeah, we're very confident that we can say we have what we say we have.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important, because in doing that, again, we're a smaller company. We need to pick the right group going forward, but we're also able to say, if we're able to deal with 2 customers, 3 customers max, unless they're exactly in the same thing, and that's not going to happen, then it's important for the one to be first. Now, the fear of missing out doesn't happen until we show that we've actually got someone that's moving forward with us. So right now, everybody knows, okay, well, once you get one, there's only room for another one for the foreseeable future. So creating that need for them to move a little quicker is what we're trying to do, knowing that they can only move so quick, but giving them access to us. The first one that signs on is going to have a priority focus. The second one, our bandwidth becomes much smaller as we sign these agreements.
Yeah. From your perspective, what is happening right now in the broader electrification market that makes this the right time for a company like Hillcrest?
Just like I said, with the data centers, where people are now having to supply their own or find ways to bring in their own energy to their facilities. And that means making it more efficient. What does it cost? What are they savings? Companies don't like to spend money they don't have to. And once they put that product in, is it going to be more efficient for them? Electrification, grids are being overhauled. Everything about it, there's a full transformation everywhere in the world. And the industry itself, just the inverter industry itself, is growing at about a little over 18% per year on
Wow.
year. So the need for it is there. If you have a bigger, better mousetrap, and we think we do, then we
Yeah.
can be part of $100 billion industry at this point in time, but we don't need the 100 billion. We don't need a large percentage of it. So it's something that's there, something that's growing, something that's not a fad. And the companies that are involved in it, or industries that are involved in it, know that they have to stay ahead.
Yeah. Very exciting times.
Yes.
Looking ahead, what's your vision, though, for Hillcrest over the next 3 to 5 years? And what does success look like for you and your team?
Success it's going to come in a couple of stages. Number one, we're asked on numerous occasions, you have this technology, we're not debating it, but when is someone going to say they want it? We're in that phase right now for someone to say that they want it commercially. So once we have that first commercial contract, it allows us, or development deal, it allows us to move into the next phase, which is, all right, now we're going to build our team, we're going to expand, and we're going to focus on maybe some of the other sectors. We're not going to be going and expanding the team and going into the other sectors until such time as we have the foundation in the company. The next
Yeah.
3 to 5 years is just expanding it from there. Once we're involved in one sector, whether it's data centers or not, it's about going to as many data center suppliers or data center companies and saying, here's our technology, it's been proven, here's where it's implemented. So grow on that level. It's a pretty exciting time. And I think when we look at the possibilities here and what our projections are, is that our estimated projections is that once the first group's in, the growth is, as we like to say, is it's a hockey stick curve. It
Yeah.
just goes up very, very, very quickly. And we're kind of poised. We believe we're at the blade of the hockey stick and about to go up the shaft.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's just getting that initial buy-in, the
Yeah,
first adopters, and from there scaling.
very much so. Very much so.
Now, Don, you've built your career by navigating volatility, uncertainty, and major transitions. What leadership lessons have been most important when guiding a company through reinvention?
That I've become maybe more comfortable in being tactical, so making short-term decisions based on events that happen that day or that month or that week, whatever you want to say, which affects the long-term strategic. Now, I'm okay adapting. I'm fine that if all of a sudden something changes today, we have to pivot and go this way. That's all about being tactical. And I think it's all about what we started talking about is listening and saying, what is it, thinking outside the box?
Mm-hmm.
They're hurdles, not roadblocks. But surrounding ourselves, we have one of the top people in our company, Jamie Hogue. She's a brilliant strategist. Like she thinks long term, and together we work very, very well together. So I think it's just moving forward with input from all levels and looking at all levels and being ready to adapt. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be ready to adapt. So any sort of plan to me is a live document. It's not something that is black and white. It's a live document that represents if the industry changes, like it did in
Mm-hmm.
automotive, we need to adapt. Now, we
Yeah.
were lucky enough that our technology isn't just automotive centric. Any one of our perceived peers that were automotive centric, they're probably not around right now, right? So it's about adaptation. It's about having a strategy, but understanding that that's a live document, a live plan, and there'll be changes as we go along. Hopefully that answers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's needs to be true with strategy in general. I mean, because things do change, especially in this day and age with, AI and just so many things happening in the world, that change is inevitable. And so being prepared for it. And like you said, looking at it as a change as a hurdle and not a roadblock, just that perspective opens up your mind for innovative solutions. And
Yeah,
then right team members, like you said too. Yes.
and in all of that is being absolutely focused on what you can control and
Mm-hmm.
not worrying about what you can't. We can't control the market, so there's no sense trying. But we can control what we offer to the market. We can control how good that offer is to the market, as an
Mm-hmm.
example. So there's no sense worrying about whether the automotive market's strong or not, or if data centers is going to be strong or not. It's about where do we see them going, offer the solution to them, and if that changes, adapt.
Yeah, right. Good advice. And finally, Don, for the next generation of entrepreneurs, executives and innovators entering the energy sector, what advice would you give about where the opportunity is and how to prepare for it?
I don't know that I'm the best person to give where the advice where the opportunity is. The world is changing so fast. It's not about being the biggest in the world. It's not about having something that everybody's going to want. It's about having something that you can find a niche in. It's about finding something that somebody needs. Once they have that need, can you address the need and from there grow? So I think right now, one of my mentors had a very good saying in that he said, we sometimes get too focused on hitting the home run instead of hitting the singles, to use a baseball analogy. And that if you hit the singles, you'll get the home run. And so I think anyone that's looking at it right now is that things do not happen overnight. I've been told a million times in my life that it's going to take more money and more time to complete your plan than you ever thought it would.
Right.
And so patience and the ability to adapt is probably the two things that I think. Patience for things you don't control is a better way of saying it, and being able to adapt are the two things that I think people should really focus on and go after your plan.
Great advice. Well, Don, thank you for joining me. How can listeners learn more about you and Hillcrest Energy Technologies?
Well, they can go to our website, hillcrestenergy.tech, T-E-C-H. That'll have a lot of information there. You can reach out to me directly. Our contact numbers are there and email addresses. And when you send a request into the company, you're going to get me. So we're not big enough that we have different divisions. So we'd love for people to go ahead and look. We're also a publicly listed company. We're on the Canadian Stock Exchange is our listing. So our symbol is HEAT, very easy to remember, HEAT. And in the US, we're on the OTCQB, and our symbol there is HLRTF. So we're easily found and easily available to answer questions or concerns or anything that comes along our way.
Great. Well, thank you again. It's been a great conversation.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into Industry Ignited. Be sure to subscribe and join us for the next episode. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.